from the IAF, which stands for International Association of Facilitators. Since 2018, I've started a book series on architecting collaboration, and my latest book, in co-authorship with Martin Duffy and other renowned digital facilitators and guest co-authors, is titled Beyond Virtual Meetings. It's all about the importance of the digital tools that can extend and augment the power of you as a facilitator and a meeting host in virtual online meetings, but also on the hybrid meetings that are going to be so much needed in this post-pandemic era. Along with my co-author Martin Duffy and esteemed PhD colleague, we host Talk to Your Meeting Daughters, a series of hosted conversations with meeting experts that can advise you about how to transition to this new normal and take advantage of this incredible once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make the organization of your meetings more sustainable and effective. Please stand by as the next show will start momentarily.
There's about, I think there's 3 pairs of the episodes where we link up one episode into the next. So that's one recurring feature. But the second recurring feature is that across multiple episodes over the 12 or over the 11, there are a number of fundamental themes that do come through that keep recurring. If you wanted to summarize them, you would say preparation, execution of the meeting, and post-meeting analysis. So those 3 ideas keep on coming up. In the preparation, the fundamental idea or question that consistently comes up is be absolutely clear on why are we meeting? What's our purpose? If we haven't got that, we shouldn't meet. That's a recurring theme. In terms of the execution, there's no consistent thing, but I think in relation to AI, the potential power of AI rests in answering 2 questions before we start using it. First question is, what can AI do that we as human participants cannot do? And the second question is, what can we as humans do and bring to meetings that AI cannot do? And if we address both of those questions as part of our meeting planning, and particularly using AI as part of our meeting planning, we are more likely to have much more successful meetings and much better use of AI overall. Now, they're just highlights that so I've got 6 pages of notes that I've written, but when you distill all of that stuff down into, well, what are the really simple fundamental takeaways that you might get from effectively 12 hours of conversation about meetings, they're the fundamental takeaways that I'm getting at this point. And there's 2 episodes that I haven't yet reviewed. The last 2, I didn't get to review the last 2, which is effective meeting inclusion and the heart of meeting design.
That's amazing. And Martin, I'm curious. So after this full year of monthly episodes, what is it that your perception about the future of meetings has changed?
I think it was picked up in 2 of our episodes, and a key question is the impact. Well, there's probably 2 key questions, Paul, actually. One is, now that we are past the pandemic, and we are past the reactive response to the pandemic. In other words, we made a major shift to virtual meetings without planning it and without analyzing as we were going what the impact of that would be. So that's a fundamental issue that I think will impact the future of meetings. The second one is the impact of AI. The analytic and reportive capability of AI, I think, can and will have a really fundamental impact onto meetings. So those two elements combined, I think, will have the single greatest impact on our thinking about future meetings. And I think when we've studied and paid attention to the impact of the pandemic and the shift to virtual meetings, and then when we do more analysis of understanding that question that we talked about just a moment ago, what can people do that AI cannot do? And what can AI do that people cannot do? Then we will make the optimum use of AI, and we will use meetings in the optimum way, virtually, face-to-face, combined, and so on. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a road to travel to analyze massive developments in a very short time frame that have impacted pretty much everybody universally across the world, which is really significant.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing, and I particularly love the question you've posed on what can we humans do that AI can't, and this is an incredible question, and I would connect that with a recurring topic in our conversations, organizational culture, right? Because Absolutely. That's something that if humans can do that AI can do is create an organizational culture, right? And how do you see organizational cultures evolving, Martin, in this post-pandemic era?
Yeah, that was a recurring theme across maybe 3 of our episodes, Paul. That was really interesting. That idea of culture and what culture means. And actually, one of our episodes, we actually talked about organizations having 3 different levels. So we have executive type level, we have management team or group management level, which is your line managers. And then we have teams, organic teams going about their group activities. And a key takeaway from one of our episodes was that the organization culture evolves from the interplay of those 3 levels in a cascade downwards. So how executive interacts with managers and how managers interact with teams. But significantly, there's an upward cycle of those interactions, how teams react or respond to managers and how managers react or respond to executive leaders. And that cyclical upwards and downward interchange is formative of the organization culture, because culture shifts. It's slow, but it shifts, and it shifts under those upward and downward cycles. And the key point was meetings are the fundamental crossroads at which those interchanges and exchanges take place. And one of our episodes, we spoke about how meetings are windows to the cultural soul of the organization. And that concept puts meetings front and center in importance of the development of the organization, because they fundamentally inform the culture that's going to evolve, because they are the place where this upward and downward cascade of interactions take place. Another point that came out of one of our episodes was this idea of the organization being a river of discourse, being a flow of conversation, ongoing, perpetual, and that meetings are analogous to islands in the middle of that conversational flow. So their meetings are a little bit like, you know, an oasis in a desert. They're like an island in a stream. They're a place where people come together to take stock, to learn from each other, to exchange with each other, to share with each other. And then we go back into the organizational flow again. But that point of respite, that point of pause that meetings provide is so fundamentally important to what organizations become. And again, it's a recurring theme that the importance of meetings in the organization may just be missed a little bit, because we naturally tend, or so many people tend to have an aversion towards meetings, a negative view of meetings. But I think what all of our episodes collectively have highlighted for us is that when we step back and look at them, they are actually so crucially important to what meetings become, or sorry, to what organizations become, and meetings are such an important vehicle to addressing that question. So I suppose if we were to summarize, Paul, you'd say, if anybody is interested in planning, executing, or projecting where their organization is going to go or what it's going to become, a really good place to start would be, well, start by looking at your meetings. Start by critically analyzing how you do your meetings. And if you get hold of how you do your meetings, you have a much, much better chance of strongly influencing what your organization will become and how it will become the organization you want it to be.
Absolutely, absolutely, Martin. And that will be a very interesting conclusion for this year to capture here in this conversation. But perhaps before we go, as we have to do it necessarily brief this time, our viewers are going to be able to watch after our conversation here 48 minutes of summaries from episode 10 to episode 2, 2023. What piece of advice would you give to our viewers, Martin? And just the other day we watched this, and so thankful for anyone registering in our conversations. Line managers, they can be not just consultants, of course, and facilitators. But what piece of advice could you give to anyone concerned with meetings?
I think I would be just reflecting actually the professional advice of so many of our participants, and it's really simple. Before you think about having a meeting, be very clear on stating the purpose. That's the first thing. So why are we meeting and what's our purpose? The second thing is be very clear on defining what outcome do I want to have achieved by the end of the meeting. And once we have those two pieces in place, we are then in the perfect position to design the meeting, to achieve the purpose, and to deliver the outcome. And we are then in the perfect position to manage the meeting in the most appropriate way by selecting the facilitator to assist us, by selecting the chairperson to conduct the meeting, by selecting the appropriate methods or methodologies to engage, interact, and deal with the meeting. And it deals with this before, during, and after. What are we going to do with the outputs? How will we make best use of them? And so on. So if I was offering advice, Paul, that would be it. Prepare well, be clear what the outcomes are, and execute according to the purpose that we set and the outcome that we desire.
Absolutely, Martin. And this was really it captures really the wisdom of this 1 year of episodes 2023. And looking about for the future, is there any particular themes you see we could explore in 2024?
There is actually, yeah. I think there's two themes that I will be intrigued to jump into in a little bit more detail, and it's about the impact that meetings can and will have on two elements. One is the organization itself. So how meetings impact the organization's development and what impact they may have. That's the first thematic area that I think will be very much worth exploring. The second is to look at how meetings impact the groups or the teams, that's TEAMS, the teams that operate within organizations. Because one thing that I'm always fascinated by is the cultural subdivisions within organizations. So for example, a sales team or a sales group versus a production group versus a design group. These different types of groups are made up of different types of personalities, and the ways in which they engage and they interact and they meet may need to be fundamentally different to accommodate very different types of personalities. And that's a thematic area that I think will be really interesting to explore, to understand how the types of meetings that we hold might be tailored to most accommodate the types of people that we have getting together within organizational subgroups, departments, project teams, and so on. So they will be my two areas that I think we could usefully focus on in 2024.
Oh, I totally concur with your suggestions, Martin. And dear viewers, if you are watching us and you have other ideas for what you would like to see us talking about 2024, please use our comments here on the event you are just watching, or contact us. We have a new website for 2024. It's mymeetingdoctors.com. So please reach out to us, and we are really eager to assist you in any way we can concerning your meetings and also suggestions for our episodes.